Buonasera e benvenuti al nuovo e ultimo incontro del ciclo Classe Aperta, Appunti per una pedagogia teatrale. Siamo Giulia
e Jacopo,
due allievi del corso allievo attore della Scuola di Teatro Iolanda Gazzerro di Modena e siamo qui con Gianina Cărbunariu. Bună ziua, Gianina. We are very happy to have you today, even though in the distance. Thank you for accepting and for your time.
Thank you for your invitation.
Gianina Cărbunariu è una regista, drammaturga rumena apprezzata in tutta Europa e dirige attualmente il Teatro Tineret lui nella sua città natale Piotra Neamt. Lavora come freelance e talvolta coprodotta dalle sue associazioni Drama Acum e Piesere Fractare. Alcuni dei suoi lavori sono stati coprodotti o prodotte dall'Odeon Theatre a Bucarest, dal Teatro Nazionale di Sibiu, dal Festival Internazionale di Nitra, dal Festival di Avignone e dal Teatro Nazionale di Bruxelles. Tra i suoi spettacoli ricordiamo Artist Talk, Ordinary People e For Sale, mentre tra gli innumerevoli testi tradotti in diverse lingue ricordiamo quelli tradotti in italiano, Kebab e Work in Progress.
Nel 2018 è docente e regista per il corso di alta formazione e perfezionamento attore internazionale della comunità Work in Progress, con 16 giovani attori in un lungo periodo di lavoro collettivo e di confronto diretto, terminato appunto con la messa in scena dell'omonimo spettacolo.
Gianina, vorremmo iniziare parlando del tuo background come artista, ma anche come studentessa. Sappiamo che hai frequentato l'Università Nazionale di Teatro e Cinematografia a Bucarest, ma quando è iniziata la tua passione e cosa ti hanno dato questi anni di studio?
Well, the theater that I am leading now, it's in my hometown, Piotra Neamt, and actually that's how I discovered theater. It used to be experimental theater before '89, and it promoted a lot of young directors and young actors who were exploring new ways of expression at that point. I was in high school in the 90s, so that's how I discovered theater. The theater was also organizing a very good international festival, probably the first international festival in Romania after '89. So I could see a lot of shows, and I remember I was going to see theater a lot at that time. Also, in high school, I started to have my first group of theater in high school with my friends and classmates. So I was writing theater, I was writing plays. And after that, I didn't go to the University of Theater and Cinema. I studied philology for 3 years, and then I started to do theater. I studied directing for 5 years. That's the old system. And then I had a master in playwriting, and then I had the PhD in the same university. I think the most important thing that theater studies gave me, and especially directing studies, was the opportunity to practice. Actually, the theoretical part was not, I mean, it's not that it was not important, but actually what this context gave me was the meeting with my friends, later actors, set designers, choreographers. So it was a very good place to meet people and to start working. Actually, I remember that our teacher, because we had this kind of of system where you had only one teacher, the professor, who would be with the same class for 5 years. So this professor was not interested in having exams. He was interested in provoking us to do performances. We wouldn't do one scene or two. We would do, for example, a play. And that was very that was very important for us to experiment, to, I don't know, to do heavy things. So yes, I think that was the thing. This meeting with the others and the practice, hours and hours of discussions and rehearsals. That was the most important thing.
Qual è la tua idea sulla pedagogia teatrale? Come lavori con i giovani attori e ci sono degli elementi del tuo modo di lavorare che vuoi trasmettere agli attori con cui lavori?
Well, actually, I'm not a teacher. I collaborated with universities, but before everything, I'm an artist, and I don't have any receipt. I don't recipe. Sorry, I don't have any recipe. I don't have any rules that should be followed in order to become a good actor or a good artist. I remember in school our professor had the same idea, and probably I'm very influenced from his idea about a complete freedom, but also a lot of discipline in this. I think there are things that you can tell to an artist, to a very young artist. There are things that you can draw his or her attention to, but I don't really believe that you can teach somebody to be an artist. You can guide somebody. You can, I don't know, join a trip from one point to another one. You can be helpful in many ways, but you cannot teach somebody. What I do usually say to people is to artists, to young artists, is just to look around and be very careful to what they see and what they hear, to be in a strong contact with the reality. I think that's very important. And afterwards, I'm sure everybody finds his voice or her voice. But the most important thing is to be connected with this reality. You cannot create something out of nothing. And I fear that sometimes universities or theaters can be small bubbles where we tend to, I don't know, hide ourselves and to lose any connection with the world. So that's why I'm trying to tell to people, don't forget there's a world out there, and you should know it in order to be a strong artist, in order to have a voice and find a voice. But afterwards, I think it really depends on every project. So I did many projects with students or young graduates in which research was the first step we have done. But afterwards, of course, you transform this reality. You find your own perspective. So after the research period, we would do a lot of improv discussions and try to find out our position in relation to this world.
Inserirsi in un percorso di teatro indipendente è stata una scelta di campo precisa. Perché hai sentito questa necessità? A cosa va incontro un giovane regista che incontra le produzioni indipendenti e quanto il fatto di essere una donna ha influito o influisce sul tuo lavoro? Nel rispondere alle nostre domande ti chiediamo anche di raccontarci anche quando ti sei avvicinata ai teatri nazionali.
The decision to become an independent artist was done immediately after I finished my studies as a director, after the 5 years of study in the academy. And I always say it was a very important decision, and it was not because I didn't receive offers to work in state theaters, because I did receive a lot of offers when I finished. I was a good student, but it was a decision that I took at that point because, well, the context is it's a bit more complicated. The state theaters in Romania at that point, they were very old-fashioned, very not open to any experiment. They were not interested by contemporary drama, which interested me a lot. So I was sure that if I go to do shows in a state theater, it won't happen what I would like to do. It didn't fit my expectations as a young artist. In the same time, being independent in, I don't know, 2004 in Romania was a bit strange, because at that point we didn't have a very strong independent movement. We were at the beginning. We were discovering what being independent means. And most of all, we didn't have spaces. So I was independent, but we didn't have our space. We didn't have our resources somehow. So we went to work in collaboration with different independent venues, or even we co-produce a kind of semi-independent productions with some state theaters that were a bit more open. I would like to say, connected with this subject about being independent, that since I was a student from 2001 to 2002, we started a project, me and other colleagues, students in directing in the academy. So we were 4 young students in directing who invented a project to promote contemporary drama, and that was called Drama Cum, meaning how to write drama today. It was a game of words. So we started this project while students in the academy, but actually we were doing a project against all the rules of the academy. It was a bit strange to do this inside of the academy, but we did it. And actually what we managed was to find the first probably new playwrights after 89, because from 89 to 2001 there was not the old language was not proper for the new reality. So during this period of time, the playwriting was absent. So after 2002, 2003, new generation of playwrights started to appear, and we worked a lot with them. So that was also an independent project, and I think Drama Cum for Romanian playwriting and for the whole Romanian theater means a lot. It changed a lot for our environment, theatrical environment. But being independent, I think it is always a choice, and it's not. I am an independent artist even now. Even if I run a theater, I choose to do some projects and not to do other projects because of my political views, because of my, I don't know, principles. But at that point was important. It was an important decision and a radical decision, because it also meant that you accept poverty and precarious life without knowing what will happen. Actually, we produced our shows from our money, and it was very tough. There were no resources. There was no grants to apply, no spaces. So being an independent was quite a tough and strange thing to do. But I'm very happy for this decision, because I managed to do the shows that I wanted to do. Of course, with a lot of financial sacrifices, but it was a decision that it worth doing. I think this is also connected with being a woman, because I know that the environment of that time in Romania was quite macho, and I remember that everybody was surprised that I was in this class of directing, because everybody said, "Oh, but the professor it doesn't like girls in this class. He thinks girls are not could not become good directors." Well, actually, it was not true in a way. I mean, meeting this person, I realized that he was very open and so on. But there was this kind of idea that women cannot be, they can be directors, but not very good directors, and they don't have the strength to fight with this system, whatever. I didn't realize for some years, because that there is a discrimination in this system, because we were in the school, we were many girls. But what happened afterwards, it's true that you can realize that there are a lot of girls going to study directing, but usually the boys, the male directors, manage to have a career. And it's still true today, somehow. So, yeah, that would be my answer for this question. I don't know if I...
Thank you. Thank you. Come detto prima, nel 2018 hai diretto il corso di alta formazione ad Erte e hai messo in scena lo spettacolo Work in Progress. Sappiamo che tu basi la tua ricerca artistica su un forte legame con il presente, con la realtà politica e sociale rumena e più in generale europea. La creazione dei tuoi spettacoli include dei periodi di studio e di ricerca, e sappiamo che per questa ragione spesso sei stata definita una regista di teatro documentario. Noi però sappiamo che c'è molto di più nel tuo processo creativo. Puoi dunque dirci un po' di più riguardo la fase intermedia tra la ricerca e la messa in scena? Vorremmo saperne di più riguardo anche il processo artistico con cui Work in Progress è nato, e quale era l'obiettivo del tuo lavoro con i 16 attori e quanto è stato importante il legame con la città di Modena.
Well, I think that when you do this kind of project where everybody's involved in doing the interviews and speaking with people and being immersed in this reality of a city, I think even if you are the director who initiates the project and then you are the playwright who writes the scenario, I think it's impossible to escape a kind of negotiation between all perspectives. And I think for me, after the research, after the interviews, after doing the transcription and the reading of the interviews, because we did all that work, which might look useless, but it was not. So after that, when you start discussing, you start actually to negotiate one very important thing. What are we here to talk about? Because it's not only me, the director, it's not only me, the playwright, who wants to say something and uses a bunch of actors, a group of actors, to say, to speak about a personal perspective. So that's a very important difference from a classical process where the director and playwright, they come, or she comes with a script and they start the readings and they do the show. That's very important. When we started the process, there was nothing. We had nothing. We just had an idea, and then we wrote down 40 or 50 questions to have it as a guide when we will speak with people. So I think that's a very different way of seeing the process and the theater as well, as negotiations between perspectives. So we took a lot of time in discussing, and I think that's important because I didn't know all these 16 actors. I didn't know them before. They didn't know me, and they didn't know each other. So we were 17, 18 people with Thea, who was assisting me. We were 18 people who were basically unknown to each other. And I remember it was the time of elections, and I think this put all the interviews with people in a very different light. They were under this, they were very charged politically, and I think that was very good for the project. I don't know if it was good for Italy, but it was good for the project. So we had these discussions, and we tried to position ourselves in this reality, and then to see what we will talk about. And then we had to do a selection of the material, and everybody was invited to propose subjects and themes and characters, and even subjects or themes to improvise. So we did improvisation. We had the also choreography. We had Alessandro Sciarroni who did the workshop with them and worked with them on the movement. We had Cristina Rinzetti, who was working for the music and for the vocal training. And the most important thing, we had these improvisations and discussions to know where we are going to. And I remember that I was writing in parallel with all this process of improvisations and discussions. I was writing different scenes. So because that's the way I work, I get inspired by all this process of all these meetings with the actors, and then I write, and then we read and we try, and I rewrite, and so on. The text is coming in the same time as the concept of the show. So I remember that I was putting all these pieces together, and we had this idea of telling the story from the point of view of dreams. And that was an important decision, because actually, as I said, the situation and the atmosphere was very charged politically. And then my idea about political theater, or theater that approaches political subjects, is that the more it's serious, the more it should have humor and irony in it. So that's why this idea of dreams, this convention that we documented, not really real facts, but dreams of this city. I think it was an interesting way to enter these subjects, and in a way to enter the city. I mean, for me, the connection with Modena was not walking only on the streets, but because it is a beautiful city, it's a nice city, it's a rich city. But my connection to the city was through all these people that we've met. And some of them, I didn't even meet them, because the actors had some interviews where a lot of them where I couldn't go. I was going to some of them. So we would split the teams, and everybody would go and do interviews, and I would go with one team. So it was impossible to be with everybody. But the people, the interviews, I knew them so well. I could understand so many things that I had the feeling that I met these people. So my connection with Modena was through these very, very interesting interviews and these people coming from very, very different backgrounds and with different dreams and desires and connection to the city, coming from very different continents and countries and with different educational background. That was very interesting. And also I remember that, speaking about the negotiation, I remember something interesting, that at some point you say, okay, but it's a foreigner, me, writing about a reality. And I said, okay, if I don't cover the reality of all this reality of Modena and this specific moment for Italy, this political moment, maybe it is good to have a freedom corner. So everybody who thinks that at the end of our process, we didn't manage to cover one subject that would be important, that person, it's free, that actor, it's free to write something and to propose a moment. It didn't happen, but it was good to have this, this possibility that opened everybody, that made everybody, I think, feel relieved that in a way or another we would cover all the subjects that were important. Because I think in this kind of project, and I liked very much the attitude of the actors I've been working with, in this kind of project, it's not like you do Hamlet, because there are so many good Hamlets in this world done by so great directors. If you do a bad one, it's not really a disaster. But when you do this kind of project where you are responsible to speak about some problems of today, and you speak with people and they share their story, their very valuable story, I think you have a big responsibility. And our question was always, well, don't we miss something from this reality? Is there something that we didn't see really well and we didn't manage to put it inside? So yes, that was our process, the middle part of it.
Hai dovuto ripensare il modo in cui svolgi il tuo lavoro durante la pandemia? Hai incontrato delle difficoltà o persino dei vantaggi? Come potrebbero evolversi i tuoi spettacoli in futuro tenendo conto dei tempi che stiamo vivendo?
So when the pandemic arrived, I mean, when we started the lockdown in Romania last year in March, I was just starting the rehearsals, and I was in this phase I was telling you about, this phase of discussions and selecting the material for the show. It was a production, an international co-production actually. I was doing my show in Piatra Neamț, and it was an international co-production with another 10 countries, a project initiated by Volksbühne in Berlin, and it was called Post-West. So it was 30 years after the 89, after the events in the 90s, after the Iron Curtain. So we had this this project where each country, we were 10 countries, 11 countries involved. We would do a project in our country, in our city, and then we would meet all of us in Berlin in May. Well, it never happened actually. The meeting in May was not possible because of the restrictions imposed by the pandemic. But we had to do something. I mean, to replace the shows and to replace the work of about 1 year replace it with something else, because the project started in 2019. We are preparing a lot and meeting a lot together. We met each other because we really wanted to build a common project. So this show that would be presented in Berlin would for a week or more than a week. This festival was the result of a common work. So it was quite a shock for me, and I think that it was good in a way that I had this shock from the beginning. For 2 months we struggled, from March to April. We were struggling with this project to find another date, to find maybe next year to postpone the project, to find the solution to do it in real life, on stage in Berlin. But we realized that we are in front of us, it's just the unknown. So at some point we decided to transform this festival in a digital festival. And that came quite as a shock to us, to all of us, because in less than a month we had to produce something else, and to produce an artistic project in a language that we didn't speak. So for instance, I did a visual essay that I composed out of my recordings, because I was doing a period of research before the project, of course, and I had quite a lot of visual material, and that was a luck for me that I had this. And then I composed with other video materials. I composed this short movie. It was a movie actually, and other colleagues also tried to reimagine a theatrical project in a completely different language. And I'm saying it was good because I think other artists and other people had a longer period of adapting mentally to this new reality and this pressure. So I remember I watched a bit the online. As you remember, all the theaters in Europe were presenting their shows online. But at some point, I just couldn't stand watching even shows that, for instance, I would like to see. And I realized that what it's important now, why the theater should be important now. It's not to see some important shows done in 2000, I don't know, by great European directors, but to realize this is also great, but this is for professional people. But what about the audience? What about the communities where our theaters are working? What about these people? Theater, it's for everybody. It's not for professionals only. So I was thinking how to answer to this crisis and to this challenge in a way, not only as an artist, because that was the important thing in a way. In my case, I had also the pressure of the artistic director of a theater, of the manager of a theater. I had to come up immediately with solutions for this crisis, and it was heartbreaking, for instance, to postpone a project that our project first with this show that we transformed into a movie, but then other project as well with a young Polish director that we were very enthusiastic about. And to transform very fast the season, to see what can be saved out of the season and what can be postponed. And from my point of view, I was trying to move everything from how do you say, from the inside of the theater, because it's good to have a stage, but theater, it's not only about a building and the stage. It's not only about that. Theater can be done anywhere, on the streets, in the forest. It can be a site-specific thing. It can be a trip to somewhere, a real trip. So in the second part of the season, in the second part of the year, so in August, we already started to do site-specific performances, and we did a performance. It was called To Be Continued, a performative guide for the spectator. And this was a performance that we did entering in a dialogue with the building of the theater. So basically we performed on the facade of the theater, and then you had a lot of people who could watch this performance outdoor. But then some of them, those who bought the tickets, would enter the theater, and they would be guided in a tour in the whole theater, even in the bus of the theater, and they would meet other actors, and it would be like a trip inside the theater, but also a trip inside their memories about theater. And they would also be participating actively with their confessions at the end of the show. And then we had another show, which was also a tour through the city of Piatra Neamț. So you see, what really surprised me was that the audience was very happy to be part of this kind of shows. They were very, very enthusiastic about this. Piatra Neamț, it's a small town. It has a very good audience, but still it's not a very, avant-garde audience. But they were very enthusiastic about these kind of shows that took them out of the classical stage. So I think in this sense, the situation with the pandemic forced us to think outside the building, to think outside the box and outside the building. And I'm sure this will be the case for this year as well. Now I'm preparing to go to Piatra next week and start rehearsing in the same way, using the building and the neighborhood as a stage. And the next project will be site specific, and it will try to look around and to enter a dialogue with the city, with the nature. Piatra, it's a city surrounded by mountains and lakes, and so I think our dialogue with the nature could start and could be interesting for us as artists to find different places to perform. It's not the first time in history that we try these kind of things, but I think for the moment these things open some possibilities, I would think. And it's not the only way. It's not the only way. This one. I am not. We present online shows recorded. So we did performances in our theater with very, very small team. For instance, we had the last two premieres were two monodramas, and we record them, and in case we are supposed to stop, we go online. So we kind of have a stage programmation and online programmation. But I'm not a very big fan of online. I think it's a good opportunity to meet other people, to have people from Australia or Britain or USA to watch these shows. But I don't think that it can work for the community you are working for. I think we should be aware that we work here and now, and I think even for the international projects from now on, I think we will really have to act local and to think, to collaborate on the concepts globally somehow. I don't know if I covered all the. It's a question that needs a bigger answer, but what I can say is that trying to keep everybody safe. We are at a moment where we can try to reimagine other ways, alternative ways of doing theater, and of entering different other dialogues that the usual one. Otherwise, if you ask me about the conditions in the theater, I think we have to reconsider all the working conditions in the theaters that were before the pandemic and are still existing today. We really have to reevaluate all these systems, not only in the theater, but since we are artists, we have to think about this. Because speaking about the project in Modena, the working conditions of people and of artists were already precarious before the pandemic, and now I think everywhere in the world it's a disaster, and we should do something. We should do something, and we should think local, as I said, for different systems, but to put together all these pieces and give a global answer to this situation where apparently art and theater are non-essential things.
Thank you very much. You've been very kind, and it was a wonderful experience for us. We hope to see you soon.
Thank you very much for the invitation, and I wish you a good formation, a good time, even if it must be very difficult for you to study in these days. But as I said, these kind of limitations at some point can open other windows. So I wish you a lot of inspiration and good luck.